Here.
Miller,
Here.
Dean DePatie, or John DePatie,
That's
sorry.
me.
Kurt Dudley,
Yep.
Kirk Mathis,
Yes.
Jean Piccolo,
Yes.
Steve Barley,
Yes.
George McKenna, and Eric Watson.
Yes.
And board member present, Tom McDade.
Thanks.
Okay.
So we would, George isn't here tonight, so we would have to have someone make a motion for an alternate voting member. Which would be Eric, and is that soon, right?
George is the alternate.
George is here?
George is the alternate.
If the so there.
So why do we need an alternate?
We
We
don't.
got a quorum, so you don't,
We don't need one? Okay, gotcha.
you did have to abstain anyway.
We only did that before when George wasn't here. Yeah, gotcha. My mistake. Okay, so first on the agenda then is the approval of the minutes from October. We didn't have a November meeting.
I move to accept the actual minutes that was written.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay. We have a few things on the agenda tonight for new business, so if everybody's okay with it, I prefer to skip to those things and do those first.
Yes.
So I'm gonna just keep myself for the first one.
Okay. Very good. So the first application is with Barry Stone. And if you wouldn't mind, can you address that, please?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dave Herring with Keyword Construction, Barry Stone. We have an application in to modify our existing special use permit at Barry Stone. There's two items. One is a small, I believe it's 10 by 10 or 10 by 12 maybe or so, electrical building within the quarry. It's for control and coordination. And the other piece is the addition of a second asphalt silo at our asphalt plant.
Mhm.
I believe you have copies of everything that I submitted.
They were sent out, yes.
Are there any questions, specific to what we're requesting?
So just what I read is the silo is going to go on a pad that's already there. You sent
Yeah,
that out
there's
for
pre-existing
expansion.
when they initiated the asphalt plant, they installed foundation to accommodate 2 towers. Business has been growing and getting better, so to accommodate that second silo is something we'd like to do.
Okay, okay.
I believe I sent a graphic or a picture, give a representation.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
And the electrical building, is that new or?
That's brand, that will be brand new. We're trying to phase our work. Phase 1 was the large building, you can probably see it from the road.
Mhm.
There's a large controls and switching in the lower half. Up on top, there's a control room where somebody can see over the quarry and do control on and off, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
And then going down lower to our other crusher 10, which is down lower, to coordinate and continue that effort for safety and compliance with MSHA mining. We're also going to do the next phase. We can only do it in phases. There's only so much work and switching we can do in one off season.
Okay,
That's the reason for the phasing and the successive applications.
right. And this is the second one. It was about 2 years ago you did?
Yes.
Phase 1? Is that
Yes.
about right? Okay. So anybody else have any questions or?
This building will not be visible from the road.
Okay. Okay. Very good. I'm just gonna read this for a second. Okay. I think the last time it was,
I got it on my phone.
the last time we did this, it was pretty clear even with county that it was just modifications we were making to the, for improvements sake, and it was fine with county, so I think, it'll just go to county again, and, we'll go from there.
Okay, so we have to wait till next month then for,
Right, the, December meeting, they've already canceled, for county, so it would have to go to the January meeting, which would be in, like the third week of January.
okay.
Okay?
So it has to be, understand the process.
Okay.
Is there anything
And
else?
you were looking at fall for, I mean, you have your own things, but you need this approval to make the wheels spin, I understand, but
Yeah.
you're looking at doing this summer and fall
The building would be next winter.
of, okay,
The silo we'd like to try to get that done and completed before next season,
okay.
which would be
You're looking at early
April.
spring,
April, early May.
okay,
So again, I think the time frame still would work.
okay.
Turnaround time with the county would be, if everything goes well, we hear in late January or February.
Yeah, late January, but they'll accept it or reject it right at the meeting.
Okay,
So we'll know the third week of January with them. Comes back to us, and then we just have to do the final, so that would be in,
first Monday in
Okay.
February.
yeah.
Hang on a minute, I got a
Yep.
question. We changed that district to business district up through there, correct?
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
does it still need to go to the county?
Well, I mean, they think if it falls under a special use permit, is when you,
Still special use.
it's still a special use permit.
Okay.
yeah.
But for you, it doesn't have to go to the
Yes.
county.
right, because I'm zoning. It's a zone use. I don't know if I don't,
We're zoned,
Well, that's what I'm wondering now, would they be under a different zone?
That's a good
we're
question.
ag residential.
no.
No, we
Oh,
changed all
we
that
changed
along
it,
the highway, right up to, Eagle Harbor Road.
Kurt, you gotta remember, it's only 500 feet.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
Why don't you speak up before?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
nice try. Okay, so, let's do the environmental, the short environmental, and then, go from there. I'll read down through them, and we'll just assume a no unless you make a statement saying otherwise. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adapted land use plan or zoning regulations? Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the land? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic? Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy? And if it fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Will the proposed action impact existing public and private water supplies or public and private wastewater treatment? Will the proposed action impair the character of quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, drainage, and other problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resource or human health? All of those will answer no. And can I have a motion to declare a negative seeker?
I saw one.
Jean? Second? For Steve? Okay. We have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. All right. Can we have a motion from the board to accept the application of from Keelers, or from Jerry Stone?
I move that we accept the application from Keelers for the electrical and the sidewalk.
Okay. And a second? Steve? All approved, all, thank you. All opposed? Nobody. Very good. Okay.
Maybe you find out, it has, never mind, it has to go back.
Yeah, we discovered it. It should go to county. Yep. And the next thing is,
So I need one that's sending it to county.
oh, yeah, and we have a motion to send it to county.
Make that motion.
Steve, in a second.
Also,
Kurt. And one,
Different ones in here.
I know, and one more. I forgot what it was. Let me think.
I think you get it
Oh, a public hearing.
Oh,
Should we, it's up to our option to have a public hearing on it. We didn't last time we had this, similar situation, because it's far enough from the road, it's not visible to anybody. They're far enough from their neighbors that it's not gonna impact anybody at that location, so.
I'll make a motion, we don't have a public hearing.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
John? All approved?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good.
All set?
That's all we need.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a good evening. Happy holidays.
Yep, you also.
Thanks.
You can, where's,
I'll go out.
okay.
Fine, you.
That's pretty fancy here. I say pretty fancy. It'd be hard to say no to it.
last one was easy, maybe this one will be, huh?
Looks like somebody does this for a living.
Nice paper.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, we can do all our drafting in the house, so.
Expedite it a little bit.
Watson?
Yeah. So the next one is Watson Enterprises and their application for, I didn't read through it, so go ahead and.
It's,
give us
so I'm applying for self-storage, building permit for self-storage. I provided a site plan, kind of address all the things Shelley wanted to address, normal stuff, the site plan, lighting details, signs, setbacks, make sure it's conforming. So I guess I'm here for you guys to ask me any questions that need to be asked, and
Okay.
We reached out to, I think everybody got the email, but we reached out to the town attorney to ask about, oh yeah, go back a little bit, we asked a couple of months ago about the issue of whether or not a special use permit would be required, because this is a lot of use in this district. So we reached out to Lance, and he agreed that it would not require a special use permit. And then we also consulted with the county, because there was a question of whether or not it'd have to go to the county planning board for review, and Bensley responded that it wasn't necessary to come to the county.
Mm-hmm.
That was back from,
Because of that, because it's in the business
right,
district.
and those were questions, I think, from September or October. And then Shelley brought up the question of the driveway, because the way it's proposed, it's got a common driveway, which is servicing both businesses, construction company, and also the storage. And after looking through the zoning, and we consulted Lance on that too, and he was of the impression that a common driveway would be allowed. He said if the same owner, if it's the same owner, a shared driveway is permissible.
I also did find in the zoning where kind of advocated for a one, it's under section 603, access control. The use of common access points by permitted uses shall be encouraged by the town board in order to reduce number of closeness of access points along streets and to encourage fronting of significant traffic generation uses upon parallel access. And they did give some parameters on dimensions, which that driveway is already built to those standard minimums. It's over the minimum.
Those guys wanted to bring those
Yep,
things
no,
up.
and that's what we saw too, and then Lance
Oh,
pointed
gotcha.
out the same thing to us
Gotcha.
too, so, yep, just to reiterate, yep, that is correct. So, I guess, is there, Shelley? Are there any questions for Eric on the application?
Well, so if you end up separating these, then you're gonna have to have another driveway, or would you allow that?
He can either do another driveway or deed off a
Driveway?
right of way. But both options are available. The way I'm setting it up, it's gonna accommodate a new driveway too without having to move the, because we are gonna have an access control, so it'll be gated.
Yeah.
And everyone will have their own pin, so it's, secure. So, but where that gate is located, it would accommodate a driveway off of Route 31 or a deed. And that would just depend on negotiations at point of sale.
Question about, is there any fire department say on this as far as okaying this?
So, in the national picture, I've been dealing with Tracky, which all they do is self-storage. They erect and manufacture the packages. So what they lay out is 24-foot driveway accesses for fire trucks is their minimum. And then they did 30 feet on the outside perimeter, and that's the way I just took their lead on it.
Right.
Because that is a common question that comes up, can get access if there's a fire.
Right.
So that's,
Your driveway's kind of
And
got some big bends in there, so I was curious.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think that's where John was coming from, is access to it from the road,
So what I do is I actually give the county an emergency access code, so they will have that right out of the gate. So if there ever is an issue, they don't have to call anybody or anything like that.
Ran through it or anything?
What's that?
Ran through it or anything?
Yeah, no, hopefully you never have to go in there, but yeah, they'll have their own access code right from the beginning.
Okay.
Same thing with it's the emergency management dispatch, that's who will have it, so they do fire, theft.
Are you gonna have any cameras?
Yes. Yes.
And is there any residence, what's the closest residence? That was gonna do, are you gonna have 24-hour lighting too?
It'll be like
Lit
24.
up?
Yeah, but the lighting schematic is in there. Again, this is a concern that comes up regularly. None of it, there's no light pollution on the highway, that's a big one, and then obviously no light pollution on the neighbor. There is woods all the way up to the road to the west, and I did leave a block of woods, small parcel between the shop and where the new construction, and there's no one across the street except Barry Stone.
Are we approving phase 2 tonight too? Is this all one?
I mean, I just put it in so I didn't have to come do this again.
So you would,
Yeah, preferably do both phases. Phase 2 is only based on demand, so I don't even know if it will come up.
The other thing that Lance does say, that permit is not needed as long as the separation does not exceed 4 parcels.
That, I don't know, it's equal.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yep.
Okay. How did they handle, the one, remember how they handled the one on, in Albion, on 98?
County House?
West of, way out on County House Road? Because they did theirs in 2 sections too.
2 phases,
Two
but it
phases.
goes through special use permit because it was not zoned. and
Right,
It was a lot more,
it was a lot more work, yeah,
because the neighbors, I mean, he's got neighbors all over the place, so they
right,
put up a little bit, you know, it's a little more for him to get it.
Yeah.
They did to a county because it's not important.
okay. Is there any other concerns, questions for Gary?
You got a, you're showing the whole size of the building here. Do you have anything additional that shows the size of the storage unit, or you haven't decided that yet?
What do you mean, the size of the unit? The unit mix or the?
Yeah, like just what size each unit, each storage facility is gonna be?
That'll be turned into a building permit, yeah. It's a mix of 10 by 20, 10 by 10,
Is that,
10 by 5. It's just split up.
yeah,
We're best guessing on demand. They are, interior walls are movable to adjust for demand, but exterior won't change. That stays the same.
and no, do they have their own lighting, each one, or no?
Inside?
Yeah,
No.
no lights, and no heat or cool or anything?
No, this is no climate control.
All light has to be provided by the, I mean, coming into it, it's daylight only, or is there?
No, all the lights on the buildings will light up. I mean, it'll be lit down the driveways.
But to get in, once you're in the unit, there's
Yeah.
nothing inside of the unit for light?
Yeah, there's no electric provided inside.
Okay.
So are your leasers gonna have 24-hour access to it?
Yes, they'll have, so it'll be gate controlled. So they'll, when they sign the lease, they'll have their own access code specific to them for access.
Are you pouring a cement pad, or are these,
Yes.
there's a pad?
Yep, it's a haunch foundation, so it's, I think 30 inches on the edges, and then monos up into a 4-inch slab in the middle. But it is an approved slab in your state, which again, that she'll have that in the bill of permit.
Bentley was telling me they're now making them prefab, just bring them in and set them right on stone.
So there's, again, this is get around some zoning challenges people have, is it's not a permanent structure at that point, they call them portable storage. So they can actually set up, some people have figured out they can get around, they can actually stack 100 of them up. A lot of it, like if properties, because again, most of these go on property that maybe not be desired for a traditional or can't conform. So where a right of way is next to a power line, that's been a place where some storage units have expanded because they can just set portables down that, in that boundary because they're movable. So
Okay.
that's, I'm assuming what they're referring to. And again, that's to get around the, having to get a standard permit, so.
So are these, will these be taxable for the town?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're thinking it'll probably create about 2 jobs out of phase 1. So actually be adding,
After construction?
you got management and then.
So you have somebody there full
Well,
time?
someone, phone or, yeah. So,
That's good.
That's what we've been looking for, to have Barry.
yeah, it's not just one of those where you put them up and, you know, you have to put anchors and work it.
Okay.
Your surface you're gonna drive on around, it's just gonna be stone, I assume, is that right?
It's definitely asphalted up to where it opens up to the buildings, but I'm thinking, I'm gonna probably wind up asphalting it eventually.
I was just wondering if they're gonna, if Shelley's gonna question anything about the runoff, but
So the way the buildings are designed, they can actually build these on a 1% slope, which is what I'm doing. So the way the lay of the land, I didn't want to have to bring in 4 foot of fill on the roadside. So they can actually build this, so in 250 feet, we're a 2.5 foot elevation change from front to back, which again, you can't see really with the naked eye, especially the way they're orientated. And then it gives me the ability to manage water directly into just the way of the land. And I do have a natural swale within the water. It's just to the west, and that runs up into the main ditch that feeds Panics Pond that they irrigate out of. That's a big ditch that runs up to where they pump out to that pond.
that ditch come right through the woods there?
Yes, it does. I think that's the same one that might catch some further water, like when they pump it for the pond. So,
Where are you gonna get the asphalt?
huh?
Where are you gonna get the
It's
asphalt?
two asphalt
I didn't see
towers,
it.
it'll be easy to pick. I'll have to choose which tower to park under.
Just ask.
Maybe you should abstain.
Every day you get the leftovers.
Have you guys filed set for pushing snow too?
Yes, yes. Yep, that's all gonna go to where it'll melt off into the edge. Yep. It just makes it really easy with that 1% slope. It doesn't change the land all that much, and it just makes managing the water just a lot easier without disrupting much. And that's the cost.
Yeah, you're not gonna have to disturb a very large area if you're gonna grade it like that, right?
No.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, the other option, you can step those buildings, but it's just not really that attractive of a layout. It's kind of painful to maintain.
Yeah.
So actually, the doors and then this whole building.
Yeah. Yeah. So, don't set a hard one. But in reality, you won't ever see it in each unit. You'll never really see it.
Okay. I guess if there aren't any more questions, we'll do the questions on the other seeker.
So this is, you're applying for just a site plan review, that's what this is?
I believe so. That's what Shelley said, and use the site plan approval, and then she can issue the permit because it's owned, that's when you, because it's a business, she said it's when you need a site plan review.
Well, I guess we need to know if you're going for the expanded one or not, for this.
Yeah, I mean, if I could get approval on the whole project in its entirety, that would be ideal.
The only thing, there's a certain period of time you're supposed to have the work completed by, I think, for the permit.
Did she leave, did Shelley leave?
Yeah.
You got a timeline on the whole thing, Eric, or no?
Again, it's based on demand. I mean, if I fill up in 8 months, you know, I'll probably fill up another building.
Right.
If it doesn't lease up that fast, then, you know, just
Is it possible to get approval on the whole site, but him only apply for a permit for half the site?
That's how I've seen it done before. So basically, you get approval for the whole project. Some projects don't even make sense financially if the whole thing doesn't work, but when you apply for the phase it is at the point. So the permit will actually be for
Half.
2 buildings, not 4. So it still will be completed in the timeframe.
But the approval for the whole plan
Right.
doesn't have a time limit necessarily, does it? It's the permit that has a time limit, not the approval.
Is there any way you can do it approve the whole plan for a year with a contingency that if the second phase isn't completed by 1 year, it has to come back for another permit?
I think it's a year anyway, isn't it?
Well, it's gonna be,
It's for the permit, not,
I got a question. If this is just a site plan approval, it's all up to, only thing we're saving from having to go back to do another site plan review.
basically I'll be
Is
sitting
there
there
any
doing the
other-
same thing with the
Yeah.
same plan.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to apply for a permit.
Yeah, either way, you're gonna do
So either way, you're gonna have
Correct.
to, so we're just saving them the one extra step of dealing and delaying time with
A site plan.
a site plan.
I think it's the permits that have a time limit. not-
Right.
Yeah, and I think you're right, it's a year to complete, or you can extend it 6 months, I think.
6 months at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question. So I think we'll accept it as a site plan approval for the whole project. And then you take care of the
Permits,
phases
yeah.
with the permits,
Yeah.
the building permits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you need a motion for that?
We'll do assuming this is correct, we'll do the environmental first, and then come back and ask for a motion for the whole project. Okay?
And the environmental will be on the whole project too.
Yes. Yep. All right. Again, proposed action, create a material conflict with adapted land use plan or zoning regulations. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of the land? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Will the proposed action have an impact on environmental characteristics that cause establishment of a critical environmental area? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic affecting the existing infrastructure of mass transit? Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy, and if it fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water, public or private wastewater treatment utilities? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in natural resources? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential of erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? We're going to say no to all of those. And can I have a motion to accept for a negative declaration?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Kurt. A second
Second.
from Jean. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Okay, now can we have a motion for the,
I got one thing I wanted to mention before that.
okay,
We need to decide if we're gonna require a public hearing, because I don't think we can vote on this
Yeah,
until we
it's in here.
decide on that, right?
It's in here for a public hearing.
So
At least the application for public hearing is in here.
the zoning, our zoning says that, optional public hearing, the planning board may conduct a public hearing of the site plan. If the public hearing is considered desirable by the majority of the planning board, such public hearing should be conducted within 62 days of the receipt of the complete application. Advertise it in the newspaper and inform and then we have to make a decision within 62 days, and we have to notify all the property owners within 500 feet.
Didn't you have in here, though, Mr. Bensley stated that permitted uses in the business district do not need to be referred to any board, and so do we still have to
Yeah, that was for the county referral.
from the planning board? So we still have to, okay, so we still have to do something.
So,
Is that if you choose to have one, or it's mandatory?
no, it's, the way our zoning reads, it's optional.
Gotcha.
This is not a special use permit, right?
No.
No.
So is there any,
There's no neighbors.
Well, I would opt for a public hearing, because I did hear there was a few on that road that wondered what was going on, why are they taking out woods, what's up? That would just give them the opportunity to say, if you got something to say, come and say it. Otherwise, if you don't have a public hearing, the town feels like they have no say at all. They're not being heard.
okay, I don't disagree.
I don't think you should. That's what we zoned.
You're saying this doesn't have to go to county, right?
Doesn't have to go to
No.
county.
If you want a public hearing, it doesn't go to county.
Well, if we have a public hearing, it's still basically what we're doing here, it's just pushing it up, what, another month,
2 months.
2 months?
2 months.
It's what anybody comes there and says gonna change their mind.
It just seems that you don't have to go to county. Yeah, it just seems like, why are you having a public hearing? Even if you don't even, how can I say this correctly? It's like, it's not urgent enough to require a county oversight. Why do you need a,
It's not a special use permit, and it's a approved business. I think that we're not trying to do anything that is irregular.
It's just a site plan review is what we're
Right.
doing.
So
it's not like a variance or anything like this where it's out of the ordinary, it's run-of-the-mill permit for business.
it is somewhat isolated.
Okay, so we have members here, can we have a motion to not have a public hearing?
You'd have to have, if it's not required and you want to have one, you'd have to have a motion to have one.
Well, we have to decide, we have to have a motion one way or the other.
Right.
And maybe,
So
I'll make a motion.
can we have a motion to have a public hearing?
I'll make a motion, we don't have a public hearing.
I'll second
Let's
it.
put it this way, do we have a motion to make a public hearing?
Exactly. Can we have a motion to to have a public hearing? No one says yes. So then it goes by the wayside at that point. There's no reason to go to a second, no reason to go to a vote.
That makes sense?
Yeah. So we're gonna go without having a public hearing. No voting. Okay? And, agree with that, Tom?
I would say if people want to know what's going on, tell them to come down here and find out what's going on. Check at the town board, town buildings, and ask what's going on.
You don't give them a say anyways.
Pardon?
They can't be heard, they know you're not giving them a say anyways.
Well, they just want to know what's going on. They're not saying they don't want it, but they're saying they want to know what's happening. It's just people
They
being
may
nosy.
have an opinion, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm torn on it myself.
It's all,
I don't
it's
know.
all legal use that they're using it for, so
If it was a special use permit,
Right,
that
then
would
I
be a
would say
different
yes.
story, but it isn't a special use permit, it's just a site plan, that's it.
And when Eric bought that property, we had some people come, and they were very upset because he bought it and they didn't.
Well,
I suspect it's the same people.
yeah, because the woods was being taken away from their hunting.
Yeah,
That
well,
was the whole thing.
they just,
I think as a general rule though, I mean, it would just be my opinion, is a public hearing is required when you're doing something that's not, it's out of the ordinary, just say. in
that needs
general.
a special use permit.
This is all conforming, and it's an allowed use. So sometimes you have public hearings when that's the case, and then they vent, and then they're gonna say what you said is, well, they don't have a voice anyways, because the law is, and Eric's applied it and followed all the rules, so no one, whether they like that he cut down a tree on his own land or not, it's an allowed use. Sometimes it creates more frustration because they vent it, but the time for public hearing for this project like that and everything else along that road is when we changed the zoning.
But that's, okay, so, on Route 98, when the gentleman with the family and was concerned about his children falling asleep and everything with the noise and that, he was able to come, he voiced his concern, you know, we listened, and, you know, pretty much said, okay, we're taking that into consideration, but this should be okay. Same thing with, that's why I ask about the light pollution, that's why I ask about cameras and that. There's gonna be people that are, you know, you're wondering, you know, where's the cameras pointed? You know, how much light is gonna be on at night now? What's, you know, what's happening? It just gives them the opportunity. And to be, I agree with what John said, they probably, nobody will show up anyway. But it gives them the opportunity. And you can go back and say, hey, there was a public hearing, you could have voiced it, you know, voiced your concerns. But if you don't give them that opportunity, that's, you know, that's your choice.
I think you make valid points, but in this situation, I'm sticking with what I said.
It's a legal use, yeah, and it's not a special use permit.
Right.
Let's move on.
Okay, so we're moving on to, we did the seeker. So now we're looking for a motion to accept the application,
The site plan.
the application for the site plan, yes.
I move that we accept the application for the site plan review for Expedited Property Service Incorporated, correct?
Thank you, Jean.
Approve the site plan,
Yes,
not
yes.
just accept it. Approve it.
Can we have a second to approve the site plan? Steve? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Okay.
Does anybody remember when another new business was started in the town last?
Pardon me, Tom?
Can anybody remember when another new business was started in the town last?
It was probably,
I can't.
what's his name on Eagle Harbor Road? Josh, just,
Oh, okay, yeah. Yep.
Oh, there was Quills and there was
So what
a
about the
lady
diesel
starting
place?
photos.
Oh, Quills too, yep, that's right.
So,
and the guy with the diesel mechanic?
Yeah.
yeah, but down here with the logging place.
The town is booming,
What's
man.
going on?
Yeah.
What's going on with the logging place? Remember they would,
Yeah. Well,
we
she passed,
approved all that.
she passed away and I don't think,
I don't think they've done anything more with it.
made a
Yeah,
deal.
I went by the other day, it's dead around there.
Some,
Yeah, yeah.
you want
Okay. Is there anything else for Eric? Anybody?
I'll stick around, give it
On the new business, next we had, meeting dates.
We did send them out, but I
Yep.
didn't print
Yeah,
copies.
Does anybody have any problems with those dates that we proposed?
Did you see it?
Yeah, it was up there.
I'm assuming the county's gonna be, they canceled their December meeting.
I saw it tonight.
They don't have, their dates out yet, probably, do they?
They have the one for January. They posted that one, that's as far as they went.
But no change in the third Thursday, or whatever it is?
Yeah.
So,
Call from Jane Fryer. You got, you guys Valentine's Day, right? 14th Valentine's Day.
Turned it up that long.
yep, we can change that one.
You guys don't get in trouble.
Yeah. Yep.
Those days look fine to me.
No, forget I haven't invited her.
Do you want to change the February one?
You wanna, does anybody think we should change the February and the October one?
Were you going away, Don?
No, no. I kinda gotta keep out of the doghouse, so.
Yeah, really. Yeah, you guys, think about it, February 14th.
That's right.
I think we should change both of them.
My sister called me.
You wanna just make it the third Monday that month?
Monday of that
I
month.
haven't heard from her.
Fine with me.
She should be clear before.
Right.
Stuff goes.
So maybe the 21st and the 17th.
Yeah.
About 10
Everything else is all right.
You're gonna be in the path.
The only thing to make on the third is that.
Oh, that, if you go to the, yeah. We don't really know if the zoning board will meet until we get closer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a shot.
That way, the house is mine, you can't damage it all.
Rather than
They
doing
meet so
a,
infrequently during the meeting. It'd probably be that,
They only met twice this year.
yeah,
oh, they did.
it'd probably be those two months that they did decide.
They only met twice all year, we're gonna have
Running
to
98.
negotiate these contracts for the planning board. All right, so we're gonna go the 17th of October and
It's gonna be the
the
17th.
21st of February, right? And all the other dates are same?
21st of February,
Okay.
17 October.
Need a motion for that? Anybody?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll say.
All in favor?
You're a big sentimental guy, I like that.
Hopefully they're watching, my wife is watching.
Sure no one wants.
Yeah. See, I pushed for that.
You're welcome.
I was gonna leave the tiny homes till last, if that's all right with everybody.
Till last.
Yeah. Is that all right? You wanna go through the county?
I-
You can go, right?
Yeah.
You were out of town.
I was out of town, I was on the beach.
So the county plan board, November 18th, they had a meeting. I gotta find that. So they had a meeting on November 18th, and the first referral was from the town of Gaines, request for a site plan review and special use permit to operate a home business home bakery at 3009 Brown Road. And they're gonna take the existing house and convert the first floor into a bakery on the east side. It's not the east side of the house, but it's on the east side of the road across the street from Army Wilderness Golf Course.
On Brown Street.
Yep. And it's the home business, and that was approved. I'm not 100% sure why that would go to the county, which is not unless I guess that's a county road. I thought that was a town road.
If it's got, trying to think, if it's got stripes down it, it's county road.
Maybe it is a county road. So that was approved.
Does it?
Next one was in the town of Ridgeway. Request for special use permit for a motor vehicle repair shop at 3925 Saltworks Road. And this is up on the corner of Saltworks Road and 31E in just outside the village of Medina. 2,700 square foot. It's a shop now. They're gonna just have a new owner, do some inside repairs,
Yeah.
and that was approved.
What's it gonna be?
Motor vehicle repair
Oh,
shop.
again.
Next one was Village of Albion zoning for solar projects. And that was approved. The village didn't have the village put a solar zoning law together, and they want to make sure they're controlling that, I guess. That was approved. Not very much room for a big solar project in the village, but
Where, do you know where it is in the village?
it's just their zoning in general.
Oh, it's just for the,
Next one was in Town of Deans. Request for site plan review and special use permit for a farm labor housing unit not located within a registered ag district. And that's at 12958 Eagle Harbor Road.
Tom, who was the application?
Hales.
Taylor?
Yeah, Hales.
It's not on Eagle Harbor Road, it's on,
No, it's not a
Kennyville.
Kennyville Road. And it's right across the street from the road that goes west.
that's,
It's got a funny name.
yeah.
You know the word I mean there? It's about halfway between the ridge and.
Yeah, comes out by Nice's.
Yeah.
And Eagle Harbor.
Yeah.
Building there.
So it's on the east side of the road, and that was approved.
Any stipulations, recommendations?
3,600 square foot Howell Road was there. I didn't write any I didn't write any notes about it.
They didn't make us another site plan at all.
That, where Kearney was, somewhere by his old place?
Just, yeah, he's on Howard Road. And so that ends in the Kennyville, and it's right where that tees in, there's a garage. So, it's a little open in between Orchard right now. To the garage there, a little small 24 by 30 garage.
Is it directly opposite?
It's a tight site, very tight site. I'm sorry.
No, I was wondering if it was directly opposite Howell Road?
Yes, basically that end right there.
Yeah, there's an open spot on the end of it.
You get somebody grant money, you don't have to pay for it, you don't know.
I don't know, I was paying,
It just came out a little while ago, I saw it there, they handed out a ton of money for that. 200,000,
200 million, right? I mean,
200 per,
but 200,000 per, yeah,
per building.
per establishment, for farmer, housing,
Uh,
agricultural housing, employee housing.
This will be the fifth one we've done in the past 4 years, identical, or 38 camps. We've done, yeah, it's hundreds, either hundreds and about 50 of the person, HOA housing we built.
Cass, did you build it?
Back to the Albion Zoning, I thought this was interesting. They had that solar project on the corner of West Baker Road and, or Baker Road and 279. And the town collected funds and held them in an escrow account. And about a month ago, they pulled the permit. The applicant withdrew his permit, so the town zoning was set up so that the applicant had to pay for those things, and they had put money in it and started paying for it, and then they pulled their application, so the town didn't lose any money. But if you had your zoning set up in such a way that you didn't have that worded, they could have been on the hook for it.
Any idea how much money it was that they made them put in escrow?
I don't know. But Dan Strong brought that point up, so.
Does anybody know why they withdrew their application?
No, they didn't mention that. The only reason they mentioned it is because Albion, the village of Albion had it in their zoning, and they commented that it was a good idea. This could have been bad for gains.
In what way?
What's that?
In what way would it, they withdrew that application, where was the town gonna be held liable for any money spent?
Well, let's say the town had to hire an attorney to do some kind of environmental review.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Because, they can't take any other ones.
They did. They hired, Lavelle was on it, I think.
did they?
I think they did.
Yeah.
I would think it would be just easy to make the applicant pay for your fees.
Is there a conflict of interest though, if they're paying the person that's approving it, or?
That's what the escrow's for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably that's the right thing to do.
Next one was a site plan review special use permit for a 5 megawatt solar project. Project's located within the town of Gaines and Tarleton, but Gaines is gonna be the lead agency. It's on 279. I think it's on the east side of the road, on 279.
Yeah, I went down through, they got it laid out, kinda like what they did down here, you saw stakes.
Did they?
Yeah.
It's in an ag district, it's got wetland in it, and, that was approved. Yep. North of the airstrip too.
That's north of the airstrip? you
Yeah.
mean?
Next one was, site plan review, special use permit, use variance for a 60 by 40 pole barn and to relocate the store to the new barn down there on the creek, what do they call it? It used to be Captain's Cove, I think, where the little hotel is there.
Down the two bridges.
Yeah.
Down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
What used to be 3 bridges?
Yeah, yeah.
The old three bridges.
They had, when the water got high, he had to move everything up top there. So, he wants to replace the building that was down at the creek. George Lacy was an applicant. And they denied the use variance, or the area variance. need more information. So they sent that back. Because he's putting it in a new spot up on the top, you know. And they asked him to bring the site plan review and the special use permit back too, with more information.
Well, the town sent it to them, that should have been, the town should have been on top of that before they sent it down there.
Things like that.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, was a referral in the town of Murray up on 104. They want to put an addition on those buildings. They're all on 104 on the north side, right before you get into the hamlet, west of the hamlet.
Yeah.
And the name of the company is teachergeek.com. And they make all these, I looked it up online, they make all these things for teaching students that are younger students, like kits to build stuff and so forth.
Tom, you said that's a building right in Murray, on the ridge on the north side, that,
Just this side of the superette.
yeah, that new complex that you've been
Yeah,
building.
he's been adding to it for a
Yeah.
couple of years.
Nice facility.
One addition's 3,300 square feet and the other one's 5,000 square feet, two additions. That was pretty. They approved the training to be watched on the county website, so it's for everybody. Everybody knows who needs the training, right? We handed that out, I think. So anyway, that's a way to get the training, you just get them right on the website. And then Kendi Roller spoke about how the broadband's supposed to be expanding in the county. And then they talked about some of the terms expiring. And that was it.
The broadband, I had a telephone call this past month, and it was somebody from Boston asking who to contact in town, and I sent it to Sean and to the board, but they were talking about where to put some antennas around Barre, and one of the sites was the water tower.
They trying to use existing infrastructure?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm sure he followed up with that.
I think it must have been part of the same one. Somebody gave him my phone number.
Oh, okay,
And so I got him phoned him up here and Sean talked to him.
okay.
And what he wants to do is put it up on the water tower.
Yep. He said he'd already talked to you, and I don't know why you called the planning board, but, yeah, you saw my name on the planning board, and I sent him to Sean, so.
Who doesn't have Wi-Fi in the town in here?
Just got it last week through Spectrum.
You did?
Yeah.
Everybody else has got it? You got it here? I don't have it either. So just Eric and I are the only two?
You're talking about cable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't.
How is an antenna on the water tower gonna have anything to do with cable?
That's gonna be the broadband internet service that they're gonna provide to county residents.
Okay, 5 or 6 G.
5G, I think.
They're looking at setting these on different towers around the area
They're just running into
to hone in the area.
Yeah. You're not talking cell tower here, right? You're talking some other tower?
For their internet, whatever they call it.
Pretty cool.
If it's 5G, that's relatively short. I mean,
5G, yeah.
that's only like
That's what he said.
3,000 feet, that's it. I mean, it's only good for the people who live in town.
Yeah.
You know, 5G requires lots of antennas. It's for densely populated places. We talk about this 5G, but people don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, sounds good.
That's the whole thing.
It's amazing, you know.
Hope the other person doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's better for them to continue to improve the 4G that we have on the cell towers now for anyone around here, you know. I mean, if they want to put a cell tower on the water tower, that'd give us even better coverage, because closest antenna is over here though, right?
For Verizon.
They like to
And
put them,
that Roddy Cars.
yeah, they like to put them about every 5 miles. I think we got more than 5 miles between those two.
Yeah.
So another one in the middle here would probably do some good.
Relatively flat though. I never lose a signal. If you get down into Clarendon or Raleigh, you
Yeah.
lose.
I'm
Again,
low at my house. I got 2 bars on 98. I go either way and it goes up.
It's just not sprint.
Yeah.
Again, this is cell now. I mean, getting internet on cell is not exactly the best way to get it either, you know, but more and more people are getting internet on their cell phones, especially if they're on the road. And just these 2 antennas over here that you could easily saturate, you know, where you don't get any response, you know, I mean, it's just awful.
Get that little circle that goes like that forever. Is that what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
That's what happens.
Yeah.
So there's an issue,
Utilized already.
there's an issue of signal strength, but it's also an issue of access to it. That means how many people are on it. You know? Every car going down the road has got their car tied into their cell phone, and they're talking, or they're playing games, or they're doing something, and that's all going through the cell service. You know? It can easily become oversaturated with just the 2 antennas that we have here in Barre. It would make sense to put another one in, but if they're talking something else, some other service, I don't know what it is, you know.
Kurt, that one on you guys, County House Road, is that Verizon?
It is now. They just added Verizon a year ago.
Well, the next thing then is the old business, which is the tiny homes. Back to the tiny homes.
We need Sean here for that.
Is someone coming in here to apply for one? That way it's in the agenda, or just something that's kind of come up in conversation?
It's, they did a housing study in the county, and it was determined that, that's one of the things that residents could benefit from, whether they be aging residents or, low-income type residents that can't afford a mortgage,
Gotcha.
so. And Sean met with, I think the roller, right? Candy Roller?
I think it was, yeah.
And somebody, I think Bensley and somebody else, and they went through a bunch of stuff, and he sent it to me, and I think you guys all got it too. But I just wanted to go through a few things that I thought were interesting. Because I understand a lot more about this now than I did previously after reading this, but these are only the things that I thought were interesting. As planners, we're not always quick to adopt useful trends. Trained to think critically, anticipate consequences, and mitigate problems, we should be asking questions and considering all options. So the few things that they mentioned here that could relate to our town, the tiny homes are more economical and sustainable than conventional housing. Some of these people would, when you're talking about millennials, some of them may have a preference where they would prefer to have a composting toilet rather than a mortgage, because millennials have different goals than others.
I think those are called minimalists.
Millennials.
There are people who are minimalists, they want to shed everything and just have the minimal things. They may be millennials too, I don't know. I think,
The 28% of tiny home owners have mortgages compared to 66% of people that have owners that have regular conventional mortgages. So,
Or you can't get a mortgage on a tiny home.
can't get a mortgage?
Seems like a bank would be more leery to give you a mortgage on a tiny home than.
Yep.
Post-frame homes will do a similar thing. For, now it's pretty common for a post-frame home to be able to be mortgaged. Even 7, 8 years ago, that there was only a handful of banks in the nation that would entertain that. Now it's pretty common, even for national banks to adopt it.
Tiny homes cost less to heat and cool and maintain. It's a viable strategy for providing semi-independent housing for aging family members.
if I remember right from our previous many conversations on this, many months, month after month after month, our zoning right now is limited to 800 square feet.
I think it's
900 square. We're talking, and really, the only thing we would be changing is the minimum square footage. Go from 900 down to some number, say 400 or 500 or something like that. We're not talking changing any of the other requirements, like gotta be 1 acre, gotta be 200 foot frontage. All that would still be the same, right?
Yeah, unless we change it, make it different.
Well, we got a 20 foot minimum width right now also. So,
Really?
yeah,
Minimum width of a house,
yep.
20 foot. But if you brought in
You
like
can't
the
make a,
trailers are 14 foot.
I think that's what it was designed for.
Yeah, it's designed to be.
I think what we designed for.
You can't make a 15-foot wide house, that's too much like a trailer.
What about the second house on the property? Second resident on the property?
Yeah, we'll have to change that too.
It's gonna be really up against trailers.
If you're thinking about
If you
aging,
address doing a aging family member, that would be another dwelling on the same property.
right,
Yeah,
so that would have to change.
yeah.
So
That means you also have to adopt different, like this is telling you minimum height, if you have a loft in there, if you have stairways, minimum area. I mean, there's a lot of other things to consider. You can't just say, we'll go to 400 square feet and then build what you want. There are other rules that you have to follow.
Well, they also have to meet.
You still have to
Building
meet the New York State building codes too.
Yeah.
Correct, it's all in here.
yeah, so we wouldn't be allowing something that would not meet the building code. We still have to meet all those requirements.
So energy requirements, everything, we have to still be met.
Now, New Hampshire and Connecticut have not opened it up yet to the public comment, but they're going to. So maybe that's a thought too, is to have public comment on it, not just us deciding on what. Maybe hear what they have to say and what their concerns might be, and then we can kind of go from that too.
Can we hold a public hearing without having a topic to vote on now? Or would it be more of us, would we be allowed to send a survey out to residents?
This one says, public comment period for Connecticut residents is not open yet. When it opens up, the post will be updated with the contact info.
So does that just mean it's open for them to not necessarily a formal
Not-
meeting, just?
Right, just to comment on
Yeah,
it.
30 days or 60, whatever, just to comment on the.
Put it out on your
Yeah, I think
website.
it'd be a great place to get people's, feedback on.
You would have to advertise it like Patty Saver or something like that, or how would somebody know that we have a public comment period, you know?
So we put it on our town website.
Well,
I
the
think
argument has been that we've not put it out there for people to see, so we need to find out where they want to put it out.
That's a whole nother discussion.
I know,
I'm
but,
not saying not do it, but
yeah, I know, but then we need to find out.
what do? Knock on doors?
You know, the thing that was the most effective that I found is to be here during the election and meet and greet people like we did,
Yeah.
what do you call it? We're looking for information for
Our
the,
comprehensive.
Comprehensive plan,
Well, we
yeah.
did that.
yeah.
We got participation.
Oh, yeah, we got a few hundred people, comments, survey.
How many times do we come to a meeting and somebody says, we saw something on the boat? You know,
Mhm.
most of us, if we
Pick the
don't.
3 most effective ways to do it.
Yeah.
I was trying to find our current zoning here, and I know the 20-foot is something, but there'd be quite a few things that change, really.
Yeah.
Because I think we require a foundation now, so would we continue to require a foundation and not have these be on wheels and be portable?
If you're gonna have a septic system, you're gonna have some kind of foundation.
Or at least to pay it.
I don't think we were going to allow portable, because
Right.
it's really not a tiny house, that is
Right.
It's a mobile house.
That's a whole
Yeah.
thing.
See that?
You said minimum 20 foot, so 20 by 20 is 400 square foot.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, we were gonna require the 20, keep the 20-foot.
Yeah. There's really no sense in allowing it if you're gonna have a whole bunch of other stuff to stop it. You're gonna have to change a lot of things. So why, you gotta make up your mind first if you want them, or somebody wants them.
350/38.
Why do it and then restrict it?
Yeah.
I did think, they did change things around as far as sellers, and when Chucky Newbold over there, he put that on a pad. That was a bought and double wide, and the town did try to stop him, said you gotta put on a cellar, and the manufacturer went to bat, and the state said no. That was quite a few years ago. But that's on a pad.
So when you guys are saying foundation, I mean, there's lots of different permitted foundations in New York. So, I mean,
It's not very good.
there's,
Room for his house.
You can go from a slab to a crawl space and a full foundation.
yeah, I mean, and they're all, it's all a foundation. I mean, it's just, different designs.
The minimum width of a dwelling at its narrowest dimension, not including porches or patios, shall be 20 feet, is what we have right now.
So that could stay the same.
Sure.
20 by 20, maybe 400 square feet.
That's what makes me wonder whether or not you just change it from,
What are we trying to attract?
It's not attractive, it's affordability for elderly or,
minimalist.
Personally, I see an advantage for the elderly to live on, some of these homes don't have a space for them, if you wanna have your parents live near you and take care of them instead of putting them in a home.
The cost of putting your parents in a home right now is just bizarre.
But
Exactly bizarre.
Yeah,
So,
and if your house isn't big enough to house, or it's on, or it's higher, and you wanna put something on a pad for access to the elderly, then you're basically doing something on
The
your
other-
property.
the other kind of place that I've seen it nationally is short-term rentals. People want to have a goofy place, out in the middle of the woods or on a creek, and, they don't want to build a 1,000 square foot place to rent, but you can rent a
Treehouse.
treehouse, something like that, and that would kind of fall under a tiny one, understand?
Yeah,
So that's another growing.
your foundation can't be tree roots.
That's a different kind of something.
Maybe a concrete tree.
Oh,
I say you were over there shaking your head, speak up.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to show.
No, earlier.
I wasn't gonna show my.
Well, you
Can't
brought
see
up
a good smile on that, so.
I just, you attract these tiny homes, and okay, people buy a lot and put a tiny home on it because it's cheap, and then you got all these cheap lots with cheap public homes on them, and people that aren't making any money trying to live in them. That's just not attractive to me.
I think that goes back to what Tom just said in his opening comments about, that sort of looking at the whole picture at the end, what's the net result?
Right.
That's all good discussion, I think we should have.
I mean, if you want to put your mother-in-law in your backyard and playhouse, that might be a different story.
We got zoning against that too.
The thing that we talked about before on this was, were we going to limit how many people can live in that small house?
Well, we have all the zoning on houses for a reason. I mean, so now we're thinking about cutting all those back so you can live in a little house. It's
Yeah,
just,
but we don't want a family of 5 living in a 400 square foot.
absolutely.
Most of those reasonings, if I understand, is because of trailer, anti-trailer. Is a tiny home gonna be still, you think tiny homes will be looked at as trailers?
What's the difference? I mean, there was some real nice trailers around. We decided we didn't like them, so we zoned them out.
On that one, how do you regulate a 950 square foot house not having 12 people in it?
I know,
That's not in there either.
no, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, you're kind of making up.
Be hard to enforce.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't want to have, I can remember Harry Parker having a little shack out in front by his house, and we picked up 4 kids, high school kids out of that on the bus.
That was over that way.
Harry Parker,
I agree, and I think there's gonna be a burden in the end on our tax base. They already say a home doesn't cover, the farmers, or the landowners, the big property owners are taking the gap on it. Don't you think so, Kurt?
I don't know the facts.
I'll talk to Cindy Van Shaw, she'll do it.
Could you roll it into a zoning thing where if you didn't want it all across the entire town, is there, an area where you would permit it, but it's very specific? So if that's how you want to live in a small home on a small lot, let the birds that fly together have their.
So instead of a trailer park, we have a teeny home park?
No, seriously, I mean, it's an option. So to limit, if you don't want to totally eliminate them, to keep them
Teeny home
in
park.
a certain area.
Yeah, we got, that's the different zoning districts we got now. So,
Yeah.
AR covers a lot of it, obviously.
That's the white, right?
Yep.
The white.
I think we're going about it wrong. Sean asked us to look at, did the town board ever have a discussion and vote for the planning board to bring up some zoning on this?
We haven't voted on anything.
Okay, well, generally, the town board will tell the planning board, do this.
Well, I think it was mentioned that it was being talked about and for the planning board to go ahead and look into.
Yeah, he's told us that. He
It's
said,
not something that was brought up to the town board, well, we gotta vote on this or that. It was something that was passed on to just look into it.
Oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with having these conversations and looking at what different states and towns are doing, but it doesn't necessarily mean we need to have zoning by 2 months from today or something.
Well, I agree, but are we being told to come up with it or not?
Well, not only that, Kirk, I mean, it's been on the agenda
I
for how many
know,
months, you know?
but we haven't done anything, it looks like we aren't gonna.
I think we have to
Yeah,
end
we
it.
talked about it, but we
Yeah,
just can't come up with specifics at this point because it's something so new,
Yeah,
you know, we don't know where to go as a model for us.
State has been talking about it, it's been up at county several times, they've brought it up. So, I mean, it's a topic that's around, so I think it's good to just bring it up every once in a while, just to discuss it and be prepared if we want to do something in the future.
If somebody wanted to come in today and build one, would they have to apply for a variance in order to do it?
and then, well, the way the variance works, that wouldn't happen,
Or wouldn't it?
no.
How would it, so it wouldn't just,
Well, I think rule number 5 with a variance, it can't be self-inflicted.
Yep.
Which your Grange was, but they got a variance.
yeah,
I'm
Well,
fine with
they
talking
can't-
about it, but
you couldn't come to town right now and put a site plan together and submit it to Shelley unless it's 900 square foot, because you can't consider it.
yeah.
And if you wanted to submit something that was less than that, what's your reason for wanting to submit something less? You have to meet the criteria, and
what's the
it's
criteria?
clearly not allowed in our town.
See?
It's self-inflicted hardship. That's one of them.
Being poor is self-inflicted?
Well, that's not,
Sometimes,
self-inflicted is because you're choosing to do something that's smaller than what's required.
That's self-inflicted? You're asking for a variance for something that's not in our zoning. I'm not supporting either side, I'm just trying to walk through, if somebody came in the door and wanted to put a tiny home somewhere, they would be thrown out the door? You say you wouldn't even be
you didn't say
considered?
no.
There wouldn't be any avenue for them to pursue it? I guess
No, because we don't have zoning that supports that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it just wouldn't, there's no recourse at all?
Not everybody gets their own way, John.
No,
No, we're telling you no, it's 900 square feet, that's it,
out the door.
out the door, there you
Okay.
go.
That's all I need, that's all I want to know. I didn't know if there was any other,
I mean, not to my knowledge, it's
Rent a small apartment.
That's what my understanding was when I was on, variance works, you don't get one if it's self-inflicted, basically.
that's another way of doing it.
It's kind of like buying a piece of property next to a farm and going to build a house on it, and then becoming an opponent of the farm.
Yeah.
It's similar to that.
Yeah.
You buy a piece of property to build a 400 square foot house on it when you know that you can't build anything that's zoned less than 900, but yet you're gonna go try to prove why you should be able to build something that's not in compliance with the zoning.
Mm.
I don't know, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, makes sense.
I wonder if some of the other towns are working on it in the county. I mean, we could always kind of let them do it first.
Yeah. You talked about
Because
that.
it's wet.
Yeah.
Well, the impression I got from Sean was he would like us to be the leader in this,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure I share that.
That's what I got too, same idea. One thing we talked about a minute ago was the number of occupants, and there is a requirement in New York State Building Code of what the minimum amount of habitable space is per person.
That's big on those labor housing, I mean, there's very specific minimum quantity of light, meaning windows, minimum square foot per common room, per bedroom, number of toilets, I mean, very, very specific.
That's for labor camps, though, right?
Yeah, but,
Driven by
meaning the
health
state
department.
sets forth, even in residential housing, there's
Oh, really?
minimums. Yeah.
I think that, from what I got, the housing study that was put together revealed some information that proved that people are not sticking around in our county or our town, you know. They're having a hard time affording to live here, so Sean's idea and the roller's idea is to try to figure out how to keep them here and not, make it affordable for them. So this is one way that they're proposing. We don't, I was just thinking about this, but do we have to call them, would we have to create new zoning for tiny homes? Or would we simply modify the zoning we got to show less square foot area and let them call it what they want?
That's where I was coming from.
The
That's
fact of the matter is,
exactly,
you want to build something?
you don't even have to say the word T, you
Yeah.
know? You just say, you go from 900 to 600 now, and everything else stays the same.
So the housing study said, cost of living was a driver of the exodus out of the county?
Yeah.
I think the lack of jobs.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
There's no work.
Taxes, everybody else is left, and now we're getting stuck with that.
Yeah.
And that takes into demographic, age, all that in that study?
Depends on how you want to read the,
Excuse me?
depends on how you want to read the data that you collect.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, interpretation,
No,
right?
I agree.
Correct, it's all relative.
Yeah.
New York State is losing people all the time. And they'll probably have a big jump because all those people in New York City that really
Mhm.
paid city taxes, but they didn't live there, but if you get a paycheck in New York,
Yeah.
you have to claim that. And
New York City.
New York City's dead. I mean, as far as go downtown financial district, there's buildings, there's some new construction. I feel bad for them because they were contracts that were signed 5 years ago, that they're just wrapping them up, but they're not finishing them off on the inside. And we're in one building down there, and I think there's about 20% occupancy, and there's 82 floors. Not a small building. Or something crazy number like that. But
Repercussions of all this is gonna take years, so
Oh, yeah.
could be heading for a real bad time ahead of us.
44% of the houses in our county were built in 1939 or earlier. 44% of them. 76% of the people that, 76% of the people own their own home and 24% are renter occupied. And 75% of the homes are single family in our county. And there's 11% mobile homes in our county. 9% multi-unit and 5% two-family. So,
If New York State calls it Appendix Q for tiny houses, then maybe we need to have a specific tiny house zoning in ours listed as tiny house, rather than,
Tried to make all of it fit under one umbrella.
right. And use it as the Appendix Q.
Because that might open up doors if you change it under the whole building code for people to do goofy things that now is limited by the 900 square feet. I don't know what they might be, but, back to your question, make sure you don't, create something down the road that you didn't want. But if you put it under its own umbrella, you don't have to address any of your current rules and zoning on housing, and it just falls under the umbrella of tiny home or whatever you want.
Do they have a maximum size tiny home?
Well, once you go over 900 square feet, you're conforming to what you build.
Well, I'm saying if we adopted like this appendix Q,
Right.
you'd have to have a maximum, otherwise.
Oh, you could use 900 feet, because then you
Right.
fall back into your
He was gonna,
standard zoning that's already currently happening.
attempt at it.
Well,
Let's see what it says.
it's kind of issue we approach it.
Well, how many vacant lots do we have in Barre? I mean, you can back into it a lot of different ways. And then we should talk to Barre to see what do you assess these tiny homes as? I mean, if you only have 50 available lots or whatever you want to do. And to Kurt's point, do you want to put in tiny homes? I remember the day in banking when Rice Homes was active, he was on the board. The biggest thing why people would put in modulars at that point was because we would, in the banks, we didn't like to take it because let's say it cost them 80. The town of Barre would put them on their tax roll for 20% less because that was their experience with resale value. Now to me, that's telling somebody you just got screwed. You know what I mean? It's not worth. But that was the savings there. It was on the taxes because they didn't appreciate it.
Right.
You know, they were going the other way. That was the same with trailers. And I used to argue it wasn't fair for the guy who did a stick build, because he pays, if it costs him $200 to build the thing, that's what we would assess him at. So my point being, on these tiny homes, we really should see, they're so new, what is their resale value or anything else? Do you want depleted assets taking up your only land usage you have for when you know the town, or you know the state of New York, people are leaving anyways, right? So you're trying to accommodate ones who can't afford. And I'm not saying that's a bad, if that's the good feeling, but is that what the community wants? I don't really know, but.
It would seem to me if it follows the same requirements as a regular house, under septic system
Yeah.
and foundations and so forth, it will not depreciate or will not lose value like a trailer. It'll always be a resident.
I don't know if there's enough in New York State, but, tiny homes are adopted throughout the nation. there's
I know,
communities.
but what I'm saying is that their value won't disintegrate.
Right, but it's a statistic you can find out.
No, I'm just saying we can find that out,
Whether
yeah.
they depreciate or depreciate.
I think it's more, right now, it's kind of it's the latest new gem. They got shows on tiny homes. You can watch them build these things and
Yeah.
throw a couple like you said, the minimalist, that's what some of them are. They literally will put a tiny home with a compost and with solar panels out in the middle of, nothing around. They love that. They as long as they got access to their phone, they can sit there and, so the resale value is gonna be driven by, as long as people still believe this is cool.
So how much is a tiny home? How much would it cost to put up a tiny home?
Yeah, well, what's that, per square foot, you're probably $110, 115.
Is it 40,000?
Huh?
40, 50,000? Is it
Nah, probably
70,000?
yeah.
For a tiny home?
Yeah, they're not cheap. And that's what it costs with these materials. I've seen them
I mean,
online.
it's
$70,000 for a tiny home.
Well, that probably didn't buy the lot for the driveway you needed, right?
Okay. It's expensive, you still pay, but.
The point I was gonna make just went out the window, so.
I think
It's
you
not,
go down,
you
you
can't
go
go
down the
down
Amish
for
there.
20 grand.
No, and I agree, because I've seen them on for sale, like they got the modular ones, and they're not cheap.
Easily enough.
That's my point, they're not, the thing is, of course, they get put up quicker, right? And they're easier to heat and everything else, I get all that, it's cheaper because it's just less space.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's some inexpensive,
Okay, well, that's the point I was gonna make, was if you can put them up for 40,000, and you can buy a vehicle for 40, you expect that to go 10 years, it's disposable housing. But,
That's what trailers are for.
yeah, well, that's what I see these as, but if they're that expensive, you better take care of them.
Yeah. It's still a pretty big investment.
Yeah,
And again, that's not lot acquisition or.
yeah.
Okay, so here's the answer to your question that you were asking, why have a separate tiny house zoning versus regular. Tiny houses provides building safety standards for houses on foundations that are 400 square feet and under. The other building codes in existence for all other sized dwellings still apply. Appendix Q was created to define safety standards for smaller spaces that wouldn't necessarily fit into a tiny house, such as a full-size staircase or ceiling height, or that's what they're talking about. So that's why you would have a separate zoning for tiny houses and still keep it the zoning you have.
Because they couldn't comply.
You just couldn't comply, just wouldn't fit.
Correct.
Fit the box.
This is according to New York State Appendix Q.
Yeah. So, in a way, what we're talking about is not tiny homes then. If we're thinking about leaving things, all other rules as they are, and just making the square footage smaller,
No,
that's not tiny
no,
homes.
No, we're not talking that. We're saying keep our existing 900 square feet,
And do a whole nother category.
another tiny homes category, yes.
Because don't they talk, tiny homes, they talk about ship ladders and lofts that don't have
Yeah.
shorter ceilings.
Egress and regress, you got all that.
Yeah, yeah, different.
I'm sure those standards are out there someplace in other states, you know, what they've done as far as adapting, you know, the regulations.
Didn't you just find that, Steve, and send it to us, the
Yeah.
building codes thing?
Yeah,
Was it for
yeah,
tiny
no,
homes specifically?
tiny homes.
Huh?
New York State does have that already?
Yeah.
Oh,
Under Appendix Q,
Yeah.
tiny houses, yeah, it's in there.
So if we took appendix Q and sent it to our residents and say, make comments on it, and we did something, and if it's all favorable, okay, maybe we'll talk about adopting it. If it's all negative, then we'll forget it.
You're gonna get more comments.
Well, I think you're gonna find most people that are already in their own homes aren't gonna talk about something like this. You don't need it, but until they need, you know, a parent, like you said, a parent or,
Well, I guess the question is, do we want to listen to our residents, or do we want to listen to somebody that might come here and build a tiny home? How would you ever?
just throwing it out there.
Right.
I didn't read this thing page to page, but some of these things in this housing study are pretty interesting. One thing is, the average age of, they're estimating that 29% of the people that live in our county by 2040 are gonna be, over the age of 65. Sure.
We're dead.
What percentage? 20, right now, today, in 2020, only 20% of the population is 65 years or older.
Really?
By 2040, they're saying 30% is gonna be 65 or older. 5% a year, right, roughly? Median age in 2000 was 36.2, median age in 2019 was 43. So that's, it's older people are
No
the
new,
ones sticking around.
that just means no new people are coming in, and the ones that are here are just getting older.
Young people are leaving.
That's just, I mean, that really, I mean, how are you able to explain that? There's no young people coming. Coming or staying.
Yeah, so that's right. And I think that's what the point that they were trying to make is how are we going to maintain the elderly in order to maintain the population? You're gonna build 10 new nursing homes in the county so that all these people can go to nursing homes? You're gonna be able to supply them with some kind of an option to have their own home?
In my business, a big thing right now is people, I mean, my parents are one of them, they're basically building their house to die in. So you know,
Staying in their own home.
they want to stay in their own house. You know, they're doing it at an age where they afford it and, you know, are foreseeing the next 25, 30 years of their life, maybe. But it's a big thing right now. We've done a ton of drawings this year of that.
What are the average size of your drawings? Are they 1,200 square foot ranches or 2,000?
A lot of them's taking an existing home and putting it on a suite in. So, yeah, that's a big one. Or, you know, a younger couple, yeah, my mom would be happy me saying that. But my mom likes for using their example. You know, they're not putting it in an in-law suite, but they're putting a home at-home caretaker amenities in. So if they need at-home care, they can have an at-home care provider. So,
Like a spare bedroom for someone to stay in?
spare bed, spare bath. It's a lot cheaper than doing it in in-law suite. So that's, again, because of the cost thing, people are trying to offset it by, instead of remodeling my whole house for me, I'm gonna remodel it for a potential caretaker. And the caretaker could be a family member that comes in and they swap out, you know, it can be anything.
So we can convert the second floor or something.
Yeah. Because again, 70,000 for a tiny home, you can do a lot with an existing structure, and now you're not creating anything goofy by having two dwellings on one property, and kind of simplifies that part of it a little bit.
If you went to the bank and you wanted to get a mortgage for $100,000 to build a tiny home, right? And you took that and you got a 20-year mortgage and 5% interest, would your payment be less than if you rented a 2-bedroom apartment?
No.
It's gonna be more.
Correct.
But you're gonna have something when you're done paying, right?
Well, equity, whatever it's worth.
I have, you know, like on the shows, again, it's all like these reality shows, but if you watch tiny homes, it's not the elderly who are moving in these things.
No.
And that's what, you got, you know, they're sleeping in, if you're elderly, there's no way you're gonna climb up that damn ladder and get your loft. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? So it's more of, you know, you gotta look at the demographics of who's in the tiny home, and you'd be surprised, it's gonna be the,
It's the modern day.
25 to 40-year-old who either, you know, very internet or wants to be eccentric and can work remotely.
Yep.
And wants minimal spaces to put their head down, but it's gonna be outside enjoying nature. I mean, that's the ones that I've seen. And I've seen tiny homes, but they're never some elderly person going in, you know, that's to the point. So I'm saying it might be something we're looking at, and we start this conversation, but if our population is really aging, tiny homes is not gonna satisfy that need.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But what if they were allowed as a secondary structure next to your house? And you wanted to have a place where your parents could be close to you and you could watch over them?
But yeah, I think Steve's point, it's just that they're not compatible really for an elderly person. I mean, they're tight, there's not, you know, you don't have the wide hallways, all the, you know, aging in place kind of things that, you know, there's standards in the National Home Builders Association. I mean, we've taken specific classes for our design stuff that accommodate, you know, that aging in place. And it has nothing to do with getting smaller, it has everything to do with
Wider
wider access.
Yeah.
Because
What's the gain of putting the second one on your lot? You can make your own, there's no gain in putting the second one on your lot, when you can just make your own big.
Not unless me and my wife moved in a tiny home and my parents moved into a big home.
Right.
That ain't gonna happen.
Or you put the caregiver in a tiny home. I mean, that's the old, but again, for $70,000, you could do a lot of remodel on your in-home to create
A bedroom and a bath.
effective thing. So that's my only question. I mean, if they're doing it for the elderly, they're looking at the wrong thing.
I was trying to find that thing about the elderly, but I get what you're saying.
And then if we do something like this, you're either 400 square feet, then you have to jump to 900. What about the in-between parts? You can't. It's either 400 or less, or 900 or more.
No, it's 400 or more. 400 would be the bottom.
400 or less by New York State.
New York State is less.
400 or less. Yeah.
The wheelchair is the living room.
You're basically talking about a trailer. You can camp on it for a weekend, you're happy to get the heck out of it. That's your home,
Yeah.
literally. That's
400 square
the
feet,
size of
400
these,
is
you
allowed.
know?
Is that mortgageable?
Huh?
Is everything mortgageable?
I don't even know. Is it mortgageable?
Yeah.
I don't know.
All the ones you see on the internet, the guys, they're building them themselves.
Oh, yeah? That's all part of the thing. I mean, that's, there's DIYs on tiny homes and putting them up. And that's why they're getting around the 70,000, but, I mean, yeah, it's a new, but it's, if you watch a DIY who's building their own, it's not grandpa in the wood shop. It's,
Young couples are trying to
yeah,
come up.
young couples that want a place of their own, and that's it.
Here, this appendix Q only regulates houses that are permanently affixed. It does not relate to tiny houses on wheels. However, there is a movement to create a new version of appendix Q for tiny houses on wheels as well. So it doesn't apply to that. You're asking about these tiny houses.
It seemed to me that would bring in a whole nother scope of conversation. If they can bring a tiny home on wheels, that's no different than bringing a trailer.
Yeah, think about if, say, Hickory Ridge put in tiny homes on the one side of the road or whatever, and people could come there and stay for the summer, and there you go. I could see something like that flying, but
Tiny home park.
keep them in the tiny home park.
They have Wegmans deal up on the lake in Kendall. It's well, it started out, was supposed to be 3 seasons, but I think they changed it to year round, but that's a tiny home community. Maybe not, I don't think there's anything under 400 square feet.
I don't think they're that tiny. Not the drawings that I've gotten from
Yeah,
them.
well, drive through there,
There's a lot of, there's second story lots in there. They're all 900.
they're,
Well, yeah, the 2 blueprints that I've gotten from them.
They're still like cottages though.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they're not that. they're
We
not
drove
that
through there.
yeah.
Actually,
I thought there was a couple there that looked pretty small to me, but I don't know.
Will we beat this to death tonight?
Well,
Hey, one thing before we wrap it up, Tom McCabe's going into retirement, been the representative from the town board.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that I've worked with. It's been a pleasure. And maybe we didn't always agree, but it worked out. We were able to sit down and get things doing. And the board members that we've worked with that used to or gotten replaced, I enjoyed with them too. But I will probably still be attending some of these, just to see what's happening.
Are you retiring to a tiny home?
In fact, I'll tell you, Eric, I want to get it together with you. Caretaker's home.
Gotcha. It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of really neat stuff from the National Home Builder Association.
All right, I'll stop down sometime because I want to find out about that.
Yeah.
Also, will we need to get a new alternate?
Yes, we will.
You could start coming to, I know you got more help now. You could start coming to more meetings.
Yeah. I got my paperwork to sign right now, so.
one of the things I was thinking about too, it might not be a bad idea for the next meeting, if we could think about with this tiny home thing about, where we might allow it, why we might allow it, whether it's not really attractive for elderly people, more millennial type people. And then obviously how we zone it and so forth, so.
I don't think the county health department allows like composting, because 5 years ago, there was a couple that we did a house for, and they tried getting it to fly, and they shot that right down, we had to do a conventional septic.
Yeah.
But they really wanted, it was just, I don't know, not different.
No. Put your needs in.
Run out, get it, but
Okay.
you didn't take the mask down, I could read lips.
Sign language.
Yeah. Give us some sign language.
How much sign language you know?
I only know one. And we use it well.
Are we meeting in
He's not doing it because it doesn't.
January? As of now?
He just
Yeah.
wants it out.
Yep.
It'll be the tenants. You can have,
Sure. No, lastly, we have one more, and I'll read it. To the members of the Barre Town Planning Board, this is to let you know that thanks to the trust of the voters of Barre electing me to the town board, I will need to resign from my current position on the planning board. And thank you. Sincerely, Dr. George. So make it official, and yes, now we would need to start looking for a replacement.
Thanks for your service.
We got a letter from the siting board about the application. This is from New York State Board on Electric Generation Siting and the Environment. Application of Orleans Solar LLC for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public need pursuant to Article 10 to construct a solar electric generating facility in the towns of Barre and Shelby. Notice of closure of the proceeding. By letter dated February 4th, Orleans Solar LLC notified the New York State Board of Electric Generating Siting and Environmental Siting Board and the Secretary of the Siting Board of its election to become subject to the provisions of Executive Law 94C and transfer its application in this case to the Office of Renewable Energy. So they officially transferred it from Article 10 to 94C.
Hemlock solar too.
What's that?
They're Hemlock Ridge solar now too, not Orleans solar.
Oh. This doesn't even have, oh yeah, that's October 19th, so that's kind of old.
Changed over from 10 to 15.
You get the same thing?
Yep.
I don't know where the agenda is. Anything else?
No, we did county planning, proposed meeting dates, the two applications, tiny homes and training. That's all that's on the agenda.
Thanks, thank you, George, for everything. And Tom.
I move we adjourn.
I second that.
Okay. Sounds good.
all right,
So there's music playing, that means nobody's on the line.
Keep it open, I pray.
Do you want these back, Eric?
Work, or we would have.
Don't need them back, but.
I'll make great paper.
Something else.